Hey, welcome back to God's Autobiography. My name would be Stephen French. It's been a minute since we had a little story time, and I had a story floating through my head from years back. To put a timeline on it, so I graduated in 2008, took a semester off. This was, I think, while I was in Herkimer, maybe around 2010, somewhere in that range, give or take a couple years. There were quite a few people on this trip, but the only ones I guess that are important to the story are my buddy Scott, who I wish was here right now to help tell the story, because God, I can't imagine like what we could remember if we bounce ideas off each other. Our buddy Robbie and Laura, they were dating at the time. They might still be. I haven't spoken to them probably since. But we had this idea where we want to go on a canoeing trip. It might have been like my first or second time in a canoe. It might be the last time I was ever in a canoe. But we decided to go in Herkimer County up on this little river, I think it is. And I think it was about maybe a 7-mile trip altogether. But Robbie had brought his canoes, a few other people on kayaks. And these are big ass aluminum canoes. Scott and I take one, Robbie and Laura take the other. I'm sitting in the front of this canoe, which I don't really know much about the positions, how they work. Scott tells me that I think the front was more for steering and the back was more for pushing. Could have been reversed. I don't know. I did well. We didn't fall over too many times. But Scott and I are the kind of people who, I guess, challenge accepted is a good theme of the lifestyle. And part of that was we didn't have our life jackets on for most of the ride. But anytime that the river split into two little paths, whatever one looked more difficult, we would take that. We did end up dropping the kind of dumping everything. We took all the important shit knowing that we were the reckless ones and gave them to other people. Scott had his phone wrapped up in like a plastic bag so we could have music, and it was I think like tied into the canoe. And we did end up flipping it once, and we're trying to like hold on to it, and we're putting our feet on like the ground, just smashing our heels on rocks trying to get this thing steady, that we could still hear his music like muffle under the water and then come back up. But that was our introduction, and when we realized that we should wear the life jackets a bit more, lesson not learned. But the real trouble came to when the river opens up pretty fucking wide, and I don't know if you'd call them swells, but I would say 2 to 3 foot height difference from like the bottom to the top of these like swells. That's what they are to me. And I see that Robbie and Laura are on our left, Scott and I are on the right, again not wearing our life jackets, which isn't super important I guess, but I hear something happened to Robbie and Laura, not totally sure what, and then I hear Scott behind me yell, "Steven, I have to help Rob." And I look back to see him already halfway jumping out. He's just completely out of the canoe. Me, super rookie with this. I still don't even know what position I'm supposed to be in. So I take this canoe through this heaviest rapid I've ever been in, and I try getting us over to the left side, to the bank. And it feels like I'm about a quarter mile away. It could have been a little closer. But I struggle. I get this shit up onto the bank. I grab our 2 life jackets and I start heading up to them. What happened to Robbie and Laura is there's a rock in front of them, and their canoe kind of turned and leaned back, and they hit the rock, which made the canoe wrap around the rock as it filled with water, and there's just this massive river current filling up their canoe, bent the canoe around the rock. There's nothing they could do, absolutely stuck there. So I run up the shore, and I run, I don't know, maybe like 100 feet or so past them, so I could try like making it in and get down to them. And we're trying to like grab the underside of the boat, and we're trying to push it against the current to try to bend it back around, which was successful. I sliced my pinky open pretty good, but we get it unbent, we get it over to the side. They're able to, I don't know if they hopped in there or if they had to like kind of veer it off to the side, but we were able to unbend the canoe for the most part, and didn't seem to have any punctures in it, so it was fine. And then it's just me and Scott sitting on this rock, absolutely exhausted, because I can tell the story in 2 minutes because I don't remember too many of the details, but this took maybe 20 of us trying to bend this shit around. And I give Scott the life jacket, and he looks at me, he's panting, he puts the jacket in, he goes, "Life jacket was a good choice," and just falls off the rock and just starts like floating down towards where I had parked the canoe. And it wasn't a particularly scary event. Nothing seemed, it was hectic. There was a lot of adrenaline going on, but none of us were worried for any like risk of casualties or anything. But it was just a real fucking fun time, a good memory that I can't forget, and felt like like sharing it with my coffee this morning. Got the autobiography. This guy talking about his life story so he doesn't have to worry about Alzheimer's later in life. Deuces.